Could the fraud that's being talked about in Minnesota happen in Canada? That's a very real and serious question. Hi, I'm Brian Lilley, political columnist for the Toronto Sun. As you can see from the scenes behind me, I'm not in Canada, but down here in California, where the talk of the fraud in Minnesota is starting to take off. At first, it was just Donald Trump mentioning it. It was Republicans talking about it, Fox News, and some online influencers. But now, especially after the video by Nick Shirley, a 23-year-old MAGA influencer, took off over Christmas, it has spread into the mainstream media, even mainstream television networks doing stories on this fraud. What are we talking about? Billions in money misappropriated. People who were supposed to be running daycares, but there were no kids. People who were supposed to be feeding hungry children from low-income families, and yet no meals were provided. Now, some of this is old news. As I wrote in my column for the Toronto Sun, well, this was already happening. It had been documented for several years. We're talking about the fact that 250 million went missing from a Feeding Our Futures program, a school nutrition type program. People have already been convicted of that. But there was no real sense that whether it was daycares or autism programs or food programs, that Minnesota was going to change anything. And so the fraud has continued, and it's only gotten worse. As that has been discussed, Governor Tim Walz has just said, well, look, talking about this is racist. We're fine. These are Republican talking points. This is not reality. Not true. This is a major problem. Now, here's the question that I asked at the beginning. Could this happen in Canada? When I posted that online, plenty of people said, what are you talking about? It's already happening in Canada. It is something that is ongoing. I would argue no, it hasn't yet, but it could happen in the future if we're not careful. What we've had in Canada are things like the Arrive scam app, where one company was able to bilk millions and millions of dollars due to bad government oversight. We've had bad government decisions. But what happened in Minnesota was organized fraud of a system based on ethnic voting blocks and the government turning a blind eye to it. There was money, according to the Office of the Legislature of Minnesota, Office of the Auditor, of Minnesota. This money was being funneled out of the country to buy real estate in places like Kenya, in Turkey, places outside of the state in Ohio. Could this happen in Canada? It could. It's not happening yet, but that doesn't mean we don't have our own problems and our own graft. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment down below, share this on social media, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.